And Charles Belk, who's a producer, was on his way to a pre-Emmy party, Beverly Hills, when he got pulled over as a suspected bank robber.
Beverly Hills Police Department says it regrets detaining the wrong man for a robbery investigation. The African-American film producer was on his way to a pre-Emmy party when he was stopped.
He was mistakenly arrested for a crime he did not commit.
Within a few minutes, with no explanation, he ended up on a Beverly Hills curb in handcuffs because he matched a description.
Was detained, surrounded by 6 police cars, handcuffed, fully searched for weapons. And within an hour, Belk says he was photographed, fingerprinted, and put under a $100,000 bail and accused of armed bank robbery. All because, in his words, he was misidentified as the wrong, tall, bald-head black male who was, quote, fitting the description.
Marketing executive Charles Belk was in Beverly Hills for pre-Emmy Award events. Police thought he matched the description of a robbery suspect for a crime nearby, so they handcuffed him, kept him sitting on a curb during rush hour, and eventually arrested him and locked him up for hours. It was all a mistake and a striking display of racial profiling. That man, Charles Belk, joins us now from Los Angeles. Charles, good to see you. You've become the human face for something African Americans around the country have been telling us they experience all the time. You are a very successful man walking in a very successful town, and one that likes to think of itself as more socially aware than much of the country. So how do you think this happened?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, but everything you said is absolutely correct. It's not something that you would expect in a town like Beverly Hills or in a community as open as L.A.
Mm-hmm.
It's generally very accepting out here.
Fortunately, I am here to be able to tell you about it. And it was, you know, a case of a crime that was taking place in Beverly Hills. I was misidentified as a potential suspect because I apparently matched the description. And I was detained on my way actually to my car to put money in the parking meter. I was immediately forced to sit on the curb for a few minutes and then handcuffed for the next 45 minutes to an hour, all doing the Emmy weekend on one of the busiest streets in LA during rush hour traffic.
It was for me, you know, a fairly completely new experience. Had never got arrested before. For whatever reason, as opposed to assuming me to be innocent, I was assumed to be guilty. Was that contributed to race? Perhaps. You know, of the 3 law enforcement agencies that I interacted with out down that curve, the one that initially stopped me, who had on a helmet cam, was very polite, talked to me. The third officer I interacted with, who was a lieutenant, came, sat and talked with me and listened to what I was saying for a short period of time. It was the second law enforcement agency that came out of the car. He was actually one that transported me. That's the person who I felt really thought I was just guilty, just by sight. He rushed over to me, he stood me up, he put me in handcuffs, and I just didn't feel that I had a chance of being innocent in his eyes. I had spent 6 hours of my life in jail, my rights completely taken away from me, and they could have easily verified that within minutes on the scene. Chief of Police has been very cooperative. He understands, as a former Army general, he understands and respects a process. And there were some breakdowns in their process with handling me, and they have admitted that, and they've put steps in place, in my opinion, to resolve that.
You know, how many of these types of stories have you heard since your arrest?
I get messages all the time of folks who have had incidents. I got one from a guy who got stopped in a similar manner for crossing the street outside of a crosswalk, more than just a jaywalking thing, but actually he felt he was being profiled for it. And I think that one of the things that we're going to try to do with the law enforcement agency, Chief and I, when we do some sensitivity training, is that law enforcement agencies or agents don't completely, I think, understand that they become desensitized to it. This is part of their routine. That officer there felt that he was well and just in, you know, protecting the neighborhood and stopping and questioning this guy. But I don't think they always understand that the innocent citizen who hasn't done anything feels violated. They feel like, why are you stopping me? Why are you targeting me? Because this is happening to them possibly for the first time. So it's not as routine when it happens to someone like this guy as well as someone like myself.
Charles Belk is in studio with me. Charles, did you file a lawsuit?
I did not file a lawsuit. We've had great conversations with the city. There were certain things that I asked of them, and they've been completely cooperative. I was more interested in change. I just don't want this to happen to anyone else again, and it will, but as long as we can cause some attention and minimize that, that was my interest. I'm trying to create awareness that, one, we don't all fit the description. Two, there is a sense of trying to give a voice to all the black males out there that have not had that voice, either because their lives were taken or they weren't afforded the resources that I was lucky to have. For the last 10 weeks, myself and Team Auto Race have been working on the hashtag Auto Race campaign, which has been a nationwide effort to raise awareness about this and also seek administrative and legislative changes so that arrest records of innocent individuals are automatically erased. I'm kind of trying my best to push this legislation out as much as possible and get the word out because, one, people don't know that they still may have a record, and two, it can easily be checked if that record is still there. It's amazing. We have, since I've been here, well, one, I'm working with the Beverly Hills Police Department. They've been completely cooperative. The chief of police there, him and I did a press video statement together where they admitted the mistakes they made and the changes they're making, and he's been completely supportive of my actions. In fact, him and I are doing a sensitivity training video together that they are going to make available to all law enforcement agencies around the country. Fast forward to here in Rhode Island, we have met with the Providence Police Commission, the Providence Chief of Police. In fact, the state police chief is on board and supportive, and he's visiting today. And so we've met with the Pawtucket Chief of Police, and all of them say that we can't believe it exists. We completely support it, and it makes sense.